Hello, my name is Martin, this is my channel Millionaire Autobahn. So, thank you for watching my video from last week. And a lot of people actually got back to me and they had quite a lot of interesting questions. Everybody was like, oh, this is a great idea, especially when you're like in your 50s and older. When you want to actually add to your retirement account. When you want to have a more comfortable lifestyle. And with that said, they liked the idea of that I told them what would be kind of the minimum requirements. That's what I see with the 50,000 and with still having income on the side or having a fund on the side that you can live with. And also the 1% rule. They did like that idea. But with that said, there were many more questions. So, keeping that in mind, I labeled this video and a coming up video series back to school. And what that means is we will be learning from the start to the end how stocks work, what stocks are, why have an investment, why treat it the way you should treat it, why treat it as a business, and how to become a trillionaire. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But yeah, that's overall the idea of this upcoming video series, because there's actually a huge amount of questions around day trading. And yes, there are a lot of videos out there, but they usually assume that you already know a lot of things, that you know what stocks are, how do stocks work, why do stocks go up and down. So with this video series, I want to dive deeper into these questions so you can be more comfortable in day trade. So before I go deeper into this, so for all my life I've been an entrepreneur. Yes, I worked in corporations and bigger companies and smaller companies, but I've always started my own businesses. And about 11 years ago, I started a business that was called CheerApp. And during that time, I met Reid Hoffman. He's a co-founder of LinkedIn. We went on a walk in the Silicon Valley area, and it was quite inspirational and spiritual. And he actually had this quote. It's kind of I will not say famous quote, but you find it online, when he said, starting a business is like jumping out of an aeroplane while you assemble the parachute on the way down. And that actually is a quite interesting phrase when you think of it. It actually means that you have to be laser focused, that you have to stay on it, that you cannot diverge from your original plan. You have to do what is necessary to get it done. Otherwise, in the case of the parachute, well, you would die. No, we don't want that, right? So, yeah, I just want to bring that out there because day trading to me is exactly the same thing. And I mentioned that in the first video, that day trading is like a business. You have to treat it like a business. As with a business, you have to learn. As with a business, you have to invest. And as with a business, you have to stay on it every single day, right? So with that said, I have a list now for all the upcoming videos in the back to school video series. All right, so let's go into this. So the first start of this video series will be something, if you will, obvious, simple, but still there's a lot of questions around it. And the question is simple: what are stocks? What is a stock exchange? How do they work? Why do they go up or down? Why do companies issue stocks? Why do companies want the stock price go up? What does the stock price have to do with the profit and loss of a business? What's their PE ratio? And for some of you, these things might already sound like complicated. Some of you already know what they are. But I think it's important to know the absolute basis of what you're actually trading. Because if you have no idea what the bases are, then you actually shouldn't start. And I really mean that. Okay, so that would be the first one. The second video would be to have the right mindset. That is very important because you cannot be of a gambling nature, let's say. You have to really invest the time to find the right stocks and everything. And with that said, because we are on the, let's say, older side out there, we are more conservative. And that's a good thing, to be honest. That's why I actually think starting day trading when you're already older, in your 40s and 50s or even 60s, is actually a good thing because, first of all, we have worked hard for our money, and second of all, we actually are more conservative than the young guns out there, right? So we actually say, okay, I want to make 100% sure I'm investing in the right stock. So that will be the second video. The third video, and that's actually a big one, is about procrastination and analysis paralysis. And that actually one hits home to myself too, because as I said, over the last 5 years, I have on and off done some day trading, but then, you know, I always kind of move it, you know, oh, yeah, I can do this next week or next month and so on. And that's not what you want. You really want to stay focused and start, and we'll talk about on how to overcome that point that you really get into this and grow your wealth. And then we're starting to get actually into the nitty-gritty parts. It's about what tools to use and what broker to use. So everybody has their own preferences on what they want to use. There's many brokers out there, from E-Trade to TD Ameritrade to Interactive Brokers and many more. And there's a lot of tools out there where you can get your information, like Finviz, TradingView, Bloomberg, Google Finance, Yahoo Finance. There's a plethora of websites out there that can give you all the information you actually need. But you kind of need to focus on the ones you really need, you know, because there's so many and you might get lost in them. So then the next point will be, have your capital ready, right? As I mentioned in the first video, I will have 50,000 as an investment. I see it as an investment into this day trading business. And even though I'm not trading with 50,000, my start is trading with 5,000 and then grow it from there with the 1% rule that I will go into in another video. And you don't have to start with that. You can start with 10,000 if you want to. You also don't have to use 10% of what you have set aside for this business. You can be more conservative and say if you have 10,000, you just want to start with $100 to trade. That is possible. However, keeping that in mind, you might fall into the pattern day trader rule that I talked about in the first video, that you have to have 25,000 in your trading account. And also you have to think about the smaller trades you do, the more it actually will cost in comparison. Because there's a cost on buying and selling these stocks, right? Even though the cost is very minimal, it's in the 0.0 cents arena. But nevertheless, if you just make $1 or $2 on a trade, it might take 5% or whatnot off that profit that you actually made. So you got to think about these things too. So the trades shouldn't be too small. They should be somewhat, I personally think they should be at least $500 plus in order to make some sort of a sizable income at the end, right? Even when you stay with the 1%, okay? So then with that said, the next video will be about risk management. It is very important to have a risk management, meaning you have to always set your stop loss so that you can say, for example, a stock is right now at $100. So you want to go up to $101 and you looked at the charts and you see that is possible. And then you set your stop loss at $99.50. So with that in mind, you have a 1 to 2 ratio of a possible positive return, right? So those are things that you have to think about. How low do you want to go with your stop loss compared to how much you actually want to gain with your return at the end? So those are things you have to keep in mind and actually make sure you always set those. Because if you don't, all of a sudden the stock breaks down and you might lose way more money than you actually wanted to. So risk management is a very, very important part of day trading business. The next part, and that to me is kind of, I would say, maybe even the most important, is learn to find stocks. How to find these stocks. Just a minute ago I talked about all the different tools that are out there, but because there's so many tools, it's actually kind of hard to actually always find the right stocks. It's kind of overwhelming at times. So you kind of have to really find a way that you say, okay, I only use these 2 or 3 or 4 tools to nail down the 1 to 3 stocks I want to trade. And it shouldn't be more than 1 to 3. Because as soon as it's more than that, you get into, oh, let's try this stock. Oh, maybe I try that stock. Oh, I do this, $1,000 into this one. Ah, that didn't work out. Let's try the other one. So that's not how you should do this. You have to be, as said, mindful of it. You have to have the right mindset for it. But you need these tools to find these stocks. And that's actually, yes, not that easy, to be honest. There's a lot of stocks that move on a daily basis, 100%, 200% up and down, and you just have to find the right ones that you can be, 80% sure that they will go in the direction you want them to go, okay? So that's that part. And then after that, we actually go into the patterns, and that is kind of the nitty-gritty of day trading. So what is like support and resistance? Why does a certain stock always been sold at a certain range? Why is it being bought at a certain range? So these are the things that are kind of important to understand. Once you understand those, you can way easier actually make a decision on what stock to trade and how to trade it. Once you understand why these things are happening, that is actually an important part. And I think once you have your strategy on what works for you, that's golden. Because with that in mind, you will have a clear path forward to always pick the winning stock and do a winning trade. So then the next part will be, you need a routine, right? So that means like, let's say you live on the US East Coast, the stock market in New York opens at 9:30, so that you actually should be up and look into what stocks to trade at about 8 o'clock in the morning. So at 8 in the morning, you kind of need to go through all the tools that we have discussed before to find the right stocks. And so then in the first hour that you can say, okay, I now have the 1 to 3 stocks that I want to trade once the stock market opens. And when the stock market opens at 9:30, you don't just go in right then and there. You first have to see in the first, let's say, 10-30 minutes, you have to see how the whole market is moving. And then is when you get into the trade. And usually stocks move most in the morning. So in the first 2 hours of the stock market opening is when stocks move the most. If you look at charts, at daily charts, they usually in the beginning of the day, you have this curve that goes like this. So they usually go up in the first 1 or 2 hours, or go down, whatever it might be. And then with that said, that's why you kind of need to trade in the early hours of the stock market being open, right? So you have to have this routine, and then once you're done with your trading, you should make screenshots of your trade. Some tools even give you that you can record your trades, and so you can then look at it on a later day or in the evening, and when you have some downtime, write a journal on what your trade was, how you traded it. because you need that to improve your trades. Like with anything in life, you start off and you still have to improve over time. Nobody is perfect right at the get-go. So it will take some time till you get everything right. And with a good routine and writing down all the stuff, you can improve your trading, you know, on a daily basis. And after a time, you have it nailed down and can say, so it's a kind of a routine to actually find the right stock, do the right trade, get out, and you might be done in 30 minutes and you have earned your money. That is possible, right? So then we kind of wind it down. At the end, there will be then a video about communities. The nice thing today is that there are so many communities out there for day trading or trading in general. And with that said, because there are so many out there, you kind of have to make sure you're not falling for the wrong one. Use these communities to gain some insights. You know, if let's say a larger amount of people, of traders that have been trading for many years, if they say this certain stock should go up today because of this and this and this, you know, have some really substantial information behind it, then you can say, okay, then I will take that and look into it with the tools that I have. Not just blindly trade a stock that somebody's saying. You cannot do that, right? So those are important things to find in communities. And then last but not least, you always have to be realistic, okay? You will not become a trillionaire. Even though it's theoretically possible, you will not become a trillionaire. But you can actually have a very good lifestyle if you do this right. If you do this correct, if you stay focused, if you assemble the parachute while you're falling down and you're not dying, then you know you have mastered day trading, right? That's what you need to do. And it's fine to just make, you know, $10, $20 a day. There's nothing wrong with that. At least you didn't lose money. So be just happy about these little wins. And even a loss might be a win because you learn from it. So at the end, be realistic and just keep going and make sure you have your correct mind to make this a viable option for you in the future. Make sure that at the end you can grow your wealth, you can actually add to your retirement, and at the end you can have a better lifestyle. So that's it for today's video, and I hope you liked it, and stay tuned for all the back to school videos coming up. They will be quite helpful for you to start your day trading journey, to start your day trading business, and we'll talk again next week. Alrighty, bye.